Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2013. I'm Leanne McAdoo, and here is what's coming up tonight.
Tonight, it's not just the internet. Homeland Security is listening and following you in public places. A breaking InfoWars exclusive investigation. And caught on tape, Obamacare navigators coached to lie and partisan groups illegally masquerading as non-profits. All that and more on tonight's InfoWars Nightly News.
InfoWars has been exposing the different networks of spy systems that are being set up in urban areas all throughout the country. They're going largely unnoticed and most likely ignored. We've got both the gunshot detectors as well as the IntelliStreet's light fixtures that can record conversations in real time. But now, Paul Joseph Watson has another SpyGrid exclusive. This one is taking place in Seattle. The DHS has funded the installation of white boxes that can track the population of the entire city using Wi-Fi networks that can record the last 1,000 locations of a person using their cell phone's MAC address. And I take it that the DHS has refused to address the privacy implications of such a system.
That's right, Leanne. While refusing to address privacy concerns, the Department of Homeland Security is funding a network of Wi-Fi hubs attached to utility poles in Seattle, which have the capability of tracking the last 1,000 locations of any person carrying a cell phone. Documents obtained by the Stranger newspaper reveal that the user does not even have to connect to the Wi-Fi network in order for their data to be grabbed. So-called rogue or unassociated devices can be geolocated by the secretive Wi-Fi hubs. Now, both the Seattle Police Department and the DHS have failed to account for the gargantuan privacy concerns posed by this mesh network, which in the name of aiding communication between law enforcement during an emergency opens the door for the mass unfettered surveillance of Seattle's 634,000 residents, and it's also being planned for other major cities. As InfoWars has documented, this is merely one aspect of a multi-layered spy grid now being rolled out across the country that makes the Edward Snowden revelations about NSA phone and email tapping look antiquated in comparison. The company behind IntelliStreet's smart light poles now being installed in major cities like Las Vegas admits that the devices can analyze voices as well as act as surveillance cameras and track people via RFID tags. ShotSpotter gunshot detectors, now installed in over 70 major US cities, can also record conversations using microphones, the New York Times reported back in 2012. This represents a massive threat to whatever privacy we have left, and yet it's being rolled out with little or no public debate. Now back to Leanne in the studio with more news.
Radioactive substances coming from the Fukushima power plant have reached Tokyo, and the effects are so alarming that now a physician there is calling for the evacuation of Japan's largest city. The doctor noted that the white blood cell count in children has shifted from 4,000 to 2,500, which is below the threshold for a healthy immune system. Dr. Mita reports that record numbers of children with sinusitis, asthma, and he notes that even rare diseases like polymyalgia rheumatica are increasing from maybe one patient a year to now he's seeing 10 patients at a time with this rare disease. Mita said, again, let me repeat that after the nuclear accident, enormous amounts of nuclear substances were released in the environment. Therefore, if we see an increase in symptoms that are different from the ones we've seen before, we physicians should first consider the effects of radioactivity. Mita says his real hope is to have not just children, but also adults move away from Tokyo, which is a city of almost 9 million people. But will doctors here in the U.S. need to start looking for similar symptoms? RT reports that a radioactive leak has been discovered in a reactor at one of the largest in the United States. A robot was used to confirm the leak at the South Carolina plant over the weekend inside the Unit 1's containment facility. A spokeswoman for Oconee Nuclear Station said that the leak remains solely inside the containment building, which is a steel-lined, airtight area with concrete walls several feet thick. She claims the leak will not put any employees or the public in danger, nor will it affect service. Now, ONS has been running since 1973 with an initial expiration date of 2013 per the 40-year regulatory standards. However, its license was extended for an additional 20 years, and now it's scheduled to expire in 2033. We'll air David Knight's in-depth report after the show. He details how Oconee was given another license extension for their facility in North Carolina. You can also check that report out at David's YouTube channel, InfoWars News HD. Now, leaky reactors are even more alarming when you combine them with the vulnerability of the spy grid. Now, the Stuxnet virus that was most likely created by the U.S. and Israel as a means to take out Iran's nuclear reactors, it has spread to other countries. One of the world's top computer security experts, Eugene Kaspersky, said this week that the virus has attacked a Russian nuclear reactor. The revelation came during a Q&A session in which he argued that those spooks responsible for offensive technologies don't realize the unintended consequences of releasing malware into the wild. Everything you do is a boomerang, he added. It will get back to you. He said that unfortunately, it's very possible that other nations which are not in a conflict will be victims of cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. He said it's cyberspace. There's no borders, and they share the same systems. Now, the U.S. is particularly vulnerable to cyber attacks since our entire country is wired into the smart grid, or as the former CIA director James Woolsey said, the really, really stupid grid. But perhaps they will address some of those vulnerabilities this week as they participate in the Grid X2 cyber war drill. But perhaps not, because we did tell you in 2010 that Stuxnet was probably going to be the next false flag. InfoWars speculated that Stuxnet was a false flag intended to both target Iran and provide a pretext for the implementation of draconian cybersecurity legislation. Despite the fact that Stuxnet was distributed through a physical USB device and not the public internet, cybersecurity legislation was being heavily promoted as a vital tool to defend the nation's infrastructure against cyber terrorism. Senator Joe Lieberman and his pal, Senator Jay Rockefeller, wanted to give Obama the power to kill the internet.
You have an internet bill. It's been called the kill switch bill that would allow the president to seize control or shut down portions of the internet.
Cyber war is going on in some sense right now. We need this capacity in time of war. We need the capacity for the president to say, internet service provider, we've got to disconnect the American internet. Right now, China, the government, can disconnect parts of its internet in the case of war. We need to have that here too.
Well, one of the things that needs to be killed on the internet is healthcare.gov. The potential for fraud there has been widely reported. Well, now new video has surfaced that shows that the actual navigators are encouraging enrollees to fraud the system and trick the IRS. So we'll have that and more right after this. Welcome back. Well, we reported yesterday about the record high stock market prices being seen during the Obama administration. Well, of course, that's because the current administration keeps passing legislation to allow bankers to get back into the sticky derivatives business. In late October, the House passed a bipartisan tweak to the Dodd-Frank bill, which was initially set up as a Wall Street reform to prevent another financial crisis or more bailouts. Well, now the Swaps Regulatory Improvement Act will allow predatory Wall Street financial institutions to once again engage in high-risk derivatives trading. Banks will no longer have to isolate their sketchy derivatives trading to reduce risk. The new bill rolls back the derivative regulations to let banks go back to the same set of rules that let them break the economy in the first place. Losses will once again be socialized and paid for by the American taxpayer through the FDIC. And guess who authored the majority of the bill? Citigroup. That's right, the banking institution that was largely responsible for the global financial crisis of 2008 authored 70 lines of the 85-line bill, proving once again that Congress is wholly owned by the bankers and the global elite. Well, your taxpayer dollars aren't just being wasted by paying off the banksters. Obamacare has proved to be just one big waste of federal funds. The new problem that's plaguing the Unaffordable Care Act is actually coming from the government-paid workers who are supposedly trained to uphold the law. In an undercover investigation, Project Veritas found out that instead, they're advising clients on how to lie on government forms, evade legal requirements, and ignore proper procedures.
Obamacare navigators that receive millions of dollars of federal taxpayer money telling applicants to lie about their health status.
Lie because your premiums will be higher.
Okay. Obamacare navigators advising applicants that they always lie.
Don't tell them. About that. Yeah, but don't tell them. I always allow mine. Okay.
Obamacare navigators counseling applicants how to defraud the federal government.
Making money on a cash basis.
Okay.
Don't get yourself in trouble by declaring it now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
Yeah, okay.
But definitely with that other, just act as if that
Didn't happen. Okay.
Never report.
Project Veritas heads to Texas to expose Obamacare navigator fraud.
We're running a campaign called Get Covered America.
We are right now in 11 states. Obviously, with Texas being the biggest.
Enroll America claims they are a nonpartisan 501c3.
Okay. This is a 501c3, so it's purely a nonprofit. It's nonpartisan, non-political.
But even their volunteers believe they were a branch of the DNC.
Brian Pendleton speak today. He is with Enroll America, which is the official group for the DNC. Enroll America appears to be sharing data and working directly with a political action committee called Battleground Texas. Both groups were active in guiding people towards signing people up on the new government-run healthcare exchanges. Remember, providing data, mailing lists, or other valuable resources from a 501c3 to a political action committee is prohibited unless certain conditions are met.
Battleground Texas, and we're a Democratic organization.
I am.
Battleground Texas is a political action committee.
If you never heard of Battleground Texas, we are new to the state, and we were started by President Obama's National Field Director.
And their purpose, in simple terms, is to turn Texas blue.
The total value of grants doled out for Democratic operatives to knock on your door and encourage you to help turn Texas into a welfare state, $67 million taxpayer dollars. And you thought that we were broke. Nope, there's always enough money to run this country into the ground. And one of the ways that they're going to do it is with this new socialized health care. Navigate this. Just look at that. This was a little graph put together by the Joint Economic Committee to try and help you navigate through this new healthcare system. Look at everything is going to be funneling through the Sibelius Secretary Health and Human Services hub there. That looks like a disaster. But those guys make Obamacare look like it's hard to navigate through and difficult. And who wants to sign up to get involved with that? Let's see what another nonpartisan group makes it look like to sign up for Obamacare.
The bigger changes are coming for those who work for larger companies but aren't covered now. That's because the government is going to require companies with 50 or more employees to cover full-time workers or pay a penalty. So more workers may find themselves covered.
But what that video isn't telling you is that those employers are going to have to pay for health insurance out of their operating budget. That's right, because Obamacare is not a tax. So now companies that operate on a very tight budget are going to have to either make their employees be part-time or shut their doors altogether. But that video, you know what, it makes it look easy to enroll for Obamacare, which, by the way, I think the current enrollees total around 100,000. So you want to compare that with 5 million cancellations so far.